This is the Transforming Anxiety Podcast with mindfulness teacher Kelly Hanlon McCormick. And today is episode number 266, Feeling It Without Being It. My intention for this conversation is that we practice being mindful around our emotions together. That we recognize that we can feel things and we can honor those feelings without being yanked around by them. Welcome in. It's the Transforming Anxiety Podcast, episode number 266, Feeling It Without Being It. I'm so glad you're here. Hey there. Welcome in today. Back from vacation for the year, I think. I don't know, maybe I'll sneak in one more trip to Colorado. And it's July. It's kind of that second half of the year. We're looking at the rest of 2024. And I kind of have this blank slate, fresh start. Maybe I'm just renewed from having a few weeks off. But I'm ready to hit the ground running. And I have something kind of interesting to talk with you about today. So I wanted to talk about, it's this subtle thing. Well, I guess it's kind of subtle and it feels a little slippery to talk about, but I think we've all experienced this. So I don't think the experience of it is all that subtle. Hopefully the experience of it is actually so stark and resonant that we can all pull from our own circumstances, our own personal experiences, and then together zoom out and get some perspective on this wild thing that we sometimes do so that, maybe it doesn't become or stay a way of life. It's more of a blip, a little hiccup in the regular day-to-day of how we want to show up and live. Yeah? So this is definitely a mindfulness kind of practice, what we're talking about today. This is for sure something to practice. I'm going to remind you of that. This is not a one and done. We don't really arrive. This isn't something that you will get and then won't have to think about anymore. This is practice. So, have you ever felt something like you have a really strong emotion show up and you're all of a sudden just really mad or frustrated or stressed out about something and you just run with it? Like you're talking with the full emotion, anger or frustration or stress. It's just emanating off of you. There's absolutely no mistaking where you're at or what's going on with you because you're feeling it and you are fully inhabiting that feeling. Like just textbook definition of frustration or being annoyed or feeling angry, like it's right here. I can show you everything about this emotion if you want to hang out with me for 2 minutes. You know what I mean? Right? You feel it, you be it, right? Now, quick sidebar. This is not an episode about suppressing or ignoring your emotions. I do not want us to confuse what we're going to talk about today with abandoning ourselves and trying not to feel how we feel. Feeling how we feel is important. It's valid. It's really critical that we allow our emotions to be. Yes. And I want to suggest a few things about those emotions as we get started here. First of all, it's helpful to remember that feelings are information. Sometimes, kind of, sort of, maybe just occasionally, we treat the emotions that show up as the end-all, be-all of our inner experience. It's like, oh, I'm feeling anxious. I am anxious. This is the right emotion for the moment, and this is who I am. You know what I mean? It's like we feel something and we don't always take a moment to inquire about it, to see what it's all about. Most of the time, we take it at face value, we believe it, and we run with it. I feel anxious. That's correct. I need that emotion. And now I am anxious, and here we are. If we can treat the feelings we're feeling as information and pause and breathe and inquire into the emotion, then we get more information. Not the superficial information that shows up like in a rush of sensation in our bodies, but more qualified information with some context, with some curiosity, with some inquiry. Information that's much more useful. Also, feelings are sometimes just guesses. Let's be honest. Our brains and our bodies do a great job of scanning and interpreting the world around us. But sometimes the emotions that show up, they're just shots in the dark. So, just like the whole thing about feelings being simply information that we need to check in and inquire further into, feelings are also our bodies and brains' best guesses as to how to interpret the situation. And so sometimes we need to fact check our feelings and we need to see, is this true? Like, did that guess hit the mark? Or are things way out of whack here? Like, here's an example. This is something that came up recently. One of my personal go-to things, something I default to more often than I should, is the idea that I am in the way. That I'm taking up too much space, that I'm inconveniencing people, and that I'm just generally in the way. Now, like anxiety, I don't need a reason or any evidence whatsoever to tell myself this story. This just is. It's kind of like hardwired into me. I can feel anxious about a lot of things, and I can certainly feel like I'm in the way in most spaces. Why? I don't really know. I just know it's a thing for me. Now, I don't think this is true. Like, objectively, I have about a 2% toehold on sanity sometimes, but I think objectively and logically and rationally speaking, I think I know that I'm not always in the way. The other day, I kid you not, this is so dumb. I can't believe I'm telling you this, but this is a good example. Here we go. The other day, I got up to get a drink. I was working, and my cat jumped into my chair while I was up for that one whole minute. And I literally paused and wondered if I should find a different chair to sit in. Like, if the cat should have my seat where I was working with my computer and my notebooks and all my stuff. I was all set up, right? But I wondered if the cat should have my seat instead of me. I told you this was dumb. But I felt that old familiar feeling inside. This whole, don't make him move, you can find something else, you can go somewhere else, you can do something else thing. I felt that inside of me. That grip on my guts that reminds me, nope, be smaller, don't inconvenience anyone, not even the cat. Now, I love my pets. I want them to be happy. I think some of this is funny. Right? The cat sleeps more than 20 hours a day, and he moved that fast and took my seat? Really? Come on. It's kind of funny, right? And it was more than that, because I felt like I should not matter in that moment. I made myself less than, and I made the cat more than. I felt like I should not matter as much. I could feel it. I'm really in with this story now, so I'm just going to try and stay upright and sane and finish this out and remind myself, again, I don't think this is true. I think it's okay for me to move the cat and for me to sit where I was sitting. I think it's okay for me to take up space. So I kissed him on the head. I gently put him right next to me. But the feeling that I needed to be smaller so that someone else can be bigger, the feeling that I need to be smaller to accommodate someone else, someone even like the cat. No, like that's work I'm doing. The work of prioritizing myself and recognizing my own wants and needs and letting those be valid, letting those take up space, that's all work I'm doing. So I needed to make that important enough to stand even in the face of the cat. And in that moment, I needed to notice the old feeling that was coming up. That was information, right? The old habit, the old routine of it. And then I needed to act differently. That feeling in that moment didn't serve me. It wasn't useful. I had to notice the information. I had to take a moment, but I did not honor that feeling. I looked at it and I was like, oh, hello, information. You aren't helpful to me. And then I moved on. So feeling it without being it. I totally felt it, right? Be small, Kel. But I didn't want or need to be that feeling. Here's another example. How about kids and patience? This is a biggie, right? Your kid is asking a million questions, or your kid is not doing what you're asking them to do, and you feel the feeling of impatience. You notice it rising up in you. Now listen, in this case, the feeling is probably spot on. Makes a lot of sense. Who wouldn't be feeling impatient in that situation, right? But you maybe notice that you don't want to be impatient with your kid. That feeling and those actions, those words, that it wouldn't be useful. So you can feel something and you can speak and act in a different way. Now listen, this is some next level mind ninja stuff. I know. It can be tricky. But, and it's possible. So there's a word for this in the mindfulness and meditation world, and that word is equanimity. Or really, I should say, this is not really a word for this. This is a word adjacent to this. How about that? A whole practice that dovetails really nicely with this concept, this struggle, this obstacle that we have. A way of being and moving about the world. A way of setting our minds in place and steadying ourselves. Equanimity is not a quality. I think sometimes we confuse or try and conflate the two. It's not really a word that's used very often, right? Equanimity, but this is a good one. Honestly, I think this is what a lot of us are looking for. Equanimity means that we have composure mentally. It's like we're mentally and emotionally even tempered. There's a steadiness, there's a solidity to us, even or especially in the face of stressful or difficult situations. It means, in a nutshell, that we can handle things. We can manage things. So here's another cool word for this. You ready? Sang-froid. Now, you'll sound like an 18th century French poet if you use that word, but I kind of like it anyway. Sang-froid. It means the same thing, but like a little more. If you start to border on being too cold or aloof, you may have brought a bit of sang-froid to the situation. And you don't have to go that far. You don't have to completely detach yourself from it. Equanimity is a calmness of mind. It's an evenness, a sense of steadiness mentally and emotionally. Yeah? Sounds pretty damn good, right? So, okay, feeling it without being it. Like for all kinds of reasons. Maybe the feeling isn't quite right. It's informative. It's telling us something about what's going on inside. There's a little signal or hint from the interior that, hey, something's up. Here's a feeling. Okay, yes. Sometimes the feeling is just totally misguided, though. It's old. It's habitual. It's a pattern that isn't useful, and you don't need to feel that way. Like with me and feeling like I need to be small. It's not a good feeling. It's not the right feeling in the cat situation. Actually, it's not the right feeling in a lot of situations, I'm finding out. Certainly not with the cat. Nope. Sometimes the feeling is bang on, right? You're feeling impatient because the kids are being nuts, or you're feeling frustrated because the boss is demanding. Okay, yes, the feeling is accurate. And you check in and you go, yeah, that seems about right. But then you ask, who do I want to be in this situation? Do I want to yell at the kids because I'm feeling impatient? Do I want to huff around and slam doors because I'm feeling frustrated with the boss? I mean, well, do I want to? Maybe. But is it useful, right? Is it helpful? Does it improve the situation? No. So maybe I can skip it. Maybe I can feel this way, even honor the feeling and the absolute accuracy of it, and then I can breathe. Then I can check in with a higher version of myself and ask, okay, what would patient Kelly do? What would calm Kelly do? What would kind Kelly do? And then I can take action. I can speak from that place. So again, beware, this is not about ignoring or dismissing emotions. In fact, we could argue it's the opposite of that because we have to check in with them first. Yes, okay, that's there. I'm feeling this feeling. I said this actually the other day. I was talking to someone and I said, listen, I'm feeling not good. And it's because of this situation. And my feeling makes sense, but it's also not needed. I see that. I get that. But it helped me to name that it was there. I was feeling icky. So yes, I said it. I recognized I didn't need to feel icky, and it was there anyway. I'm feeling things. It helped me in that moment to say, this is happening. I'm feeling this. Because then I didn't feel the need to be that way. I didn't need to show up icky just because I was feeling icky. I could name it. I could pause right there and say, yes, I'm feeling this way, and I don't want or need to be this way. I didn't need to be sure that I rubbed that emotion in everyone's face just because I was feeling it. I named it. I gave it a little space. I acknowledged that it kind of made sense. That feeling wasn't inaccurate, but it was a little silly. Those were both true. And then I went on about my day. This, I'm telling you, this is one version of freedom. This is not ignoring or suppressing feelings. It's freedom. You feel them, you notice them, you name them, you breathe, and then you have the opportunity to respond and show up how you want to show up in life. It's kind of cool. Just saying. So, mindfulness. I think this is a mindfulness practice. This is equanimity in the sense that we're noticing what's happening in this case, right? We're noticing the inside job. We're noticing how we're feeling. And then instead of reacting to it, we ask ourselves to respond. We pay attention. We bring a sense of intention. We slow the moment down just a little bit. And with a certain amount of kindness towards ourselves, we say, okay, now what? What comes next? I'm feeling this way. Yes. Is this useful? Is this real? Is this true? Is this who I want to be? And with that inquiry, with that information, which is more qualified information than simply taking the information of the feeling, with that, we move forward. Yeah? Subtle, but like way powerful. I would love to hear what you think about this. I would love to hear how this works for you and what comes up for you. Equanimity. Feeling it without being it. Yeah? This is not something we'll get right all of the time. This is not a place to strive for perfection. I'm warning you about that now. Just bathe it all in awareness. Just notice it. See what comes up. And then see what you want and go from there. All right, that's it for today. Feeling it without being it. Don't forget you can hit me up via featuredup.com/transforminganxiety. You can write me a note there, or you can send me a voicemail. Super cool. Okay, I will see you at the same time, same place next week for more Transforming Anxiety. And until then, please take care. Thank you so much for being here, for listening, for doing this work alongside me. Thank you for sharing this with your friends and your family, anyone who, could use the support and the guidance, who could use these teachings and practices. Thank you for sharing your stories with me, telling me about your experiences and asking your questions. I'm here with you. Let's do this together. Transforming Anxiety.